I read in a strategy recently the following: goal, to provide training in research skills. Objective, provide training in research skills. Activity, train in research skills. If only strategy were that easy. This is simply a matter of changing a passive assertion into an active one, and then finally into an imperative one. Actually, you could automate that, which means, of course, that nothing's actually really been achieved at all. Strategies are not usually as awful as that example, but they're often pretty awful nonetheless. The important point is that they don't actually contain anything strategic, just some wishes which someone, somewhere, sometime, will find a way to make true. But they don't typically come true, because even if the goal expresses a real area of concern, the challenge has not been identified. We discussed this in general terms in the last post on this topic, and now what we're going to do is to look at an example. So let's say the institution decides that the goal is to improve research performance. You can imagine the situation. The institution's under external review, and among other things, it's being assessed for its research activity. And it's well aware that research performance is very poor. There's not much activity, and the faculty are not publishing many papers in particular. That observation neatly leads to an objective under the goal, to increase the number of academic papers published. Again, this is not ridiculous. It does appear that the institution has a challenge in this area. The problem is, at least so far, it's not actually analysed the situation and developed a strategy for addressing it. Next, the institution decides to develop performance indicators and targets for that objective. It might, for example, have a performance indicator that states number of ISI papers published per faculty member per annum. The target at this institution, maybe at the institutional level, might be 2 such papers. In this reporting delegating model of so-called strategy, the institution now sets the framework as a requirement on academic colleges and departments. It might set different targets for different departments according to their current positions, or maybe not. So now the departments operationalise this by encouraging their staff to publish more papers, and sometimes that's all that's done. More often, there's some variously uncoordinated activity, resource reallocation, taken independently by each department to help a bit. But often these units will feel a real sense of alienation because they're aware that there are real reasons why the institution is underperforming in the area of research. But these are neither addressed in the strategy, nor can they be tackled by those who are tasked to make a difference. They expect that they'll fail, and then they probably do. It turns out that there are some really important reasons why this institution is underperforming in the area of research, and why this is a reasonable challenge area. These could be faculty members are grossly overwhelmed with their teaching responsibilities. They have almost no time for research. There is no resource to support research. There's a lack of facilities and tools, such as software, and there's very little money set aside to support attendance for conferences. There are no internal incentives to support research. These could be seed funding programs, research rewards for successful activities, and so on. There's no sense of direction. Research activities are fragmented. There's no focus. There's no critical mass. These matters dominate. These are the critical factors that will determine whether the institution can achieve its ambition or whether it will not. The problem is that none of this is included in the strategy or in the approach to developing strategy. The goal, if it's treated as a wish with objectives, performance indicators and targets, simply avoids the analysis. But you don't analyse a wish, correct? The goal should be considered a challenge. Then it becomes sensible to analyse it. Such an analysis, followed by decisions on how to deal with the results of the analysis, is what real strategy is about, as we will see.